Hey everybody, how you doing? Still technically the month of love, so you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna end it on a tragic note. I didn't
Yep.
I didn't
Wait.
realize this until after the fact, but we both chose one video game that, we considered to be romantic,
Mm.
and they're both extremely tragic. Maybe one more so than the other, but still like
It shows you what's inside our souls.
right,
I
right,
don't know.
right.
I don't know.
So what we're going to be talking about, because we didn't actually say what we were talking about, so that I guess that is technically my fault. But anyways, we're talking about Left Behind, which is the Last of Us DLC.
What would you call it? A prelude? I mean,
Well, it's an in between prequel,
it's an interlude
interlude.
and interlude. Pretty much, I would probably just say this is like a short cinematic experience,
Yeah,
like short Last of a cinematic experience.
yeah, definitely.
For me, I
Like,
the
tell us.
way.
I guess sorry. Tell us why this was your choice.
Oh, yeah, that's probably a good way. So this was my choice because we kind of were looking through like a list of games where like, hey, what could we look at? And The Last of Us Left Behind, I actually just played 2 weeks ago for the very first time. Never played it on PS3, never played it on PS4, just never got around to it. And it was kind of one of those that it just kind of it left. It
Behind.
No, so yeah, it definitely left an impact on me. And while it's not necessarily a romance story, it is a genuine story about love that really doesn't have any it's not something I would recommend to someone. Say, hey, check out this really cool love story.
Right.
I would say, hey, check out this like playable movie. I mean, it's the same exact length of a movie. It's two and a
Right.
half hours long. So, you know, I guess Last of Us cinematic experience is probably the best definition I
Yeah.
could give it. But yeah, it's one of those I feel like does need to be played. And you know, again with Naughty Dog and how they develop games, they can definitely pull emotion out of you even from ones and zeros.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, like I think the first time I played it, I was just kind of like, what's up with the flashback and then the flash forward? I don't know. I didn't really get it,
I'm
but
just
I
beginning to
had
think you don't like flashbacks, honestly.
shut up, okay? Don't even Boba Fett with me.
Put that on a T-shirt.
Uh but like I didn't really, well, I guess I didn't see the thematic through line. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But definitely on replays, that's when I was like, okay, I get the thematic through line. And that is the flashback as she's flashing back to somebody that she lost and she obviously very close to. And then
Mhm.
when you're in the present, you are fighting for that person that you really care about. And so that thematic through line actually just made way more sense on a replay, I guess. But also I'm a dome, so like I burper. So, but I really love that thematic through line, and I mean, like, it does make the more extremely like low key nature of you and walking around with your BFF or whatever. Like,
Mhm.
that's very slow, very slow burn, and then it'll come back to the present and you do a little bit of action and they'll go back to the past, but it's like it makes it so much worth it because you're like, okay, I see. Like, the reason is it's like she's remembering it, and she remembers what happened the last time somebody she cared about had something happen to them. So I'm like, okay, that's really cool. I like that.
Right. Yeah, and really I think the best way that I can talk about this game is like the game itself and then the medium and I guess like kind of what it did, because
Hmm.
that's what's really cool about this game is it did a lot in 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And so my experience with The Last of Us, I played, I think it was, no, yeah, I played it on PS3. I was going to say,
Okay.
I thought I played it for the first time on PS4, but the first game I can recall in recent memory that I can say I legit cried in the first 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And in that first 30 minutes playing that intro, I knew this was going to be just this game was going to impact me in some way.
Yeah.
And I've played it, a couple other times after that, the initial. But with this, whenever I started Left Behind, I was just kind of looking for something to do, and I didn't know exactly how long it was.
Yeah.
But I kind of started picking away at it a little bit because partly due to The Last of Us gameplay frustration that I haven't experienced in quite a long time, specifically the part when you're going through the stores and that one section that's got a bunch of clickers and other just general zombies,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to get to the door and rattle it. I had been playing games where I was like, okay, I'm just gonna run, I'm just gonna cheat my way through this. No, couldn't do that.
Yep.
I had to figure out how to do something, and so while it annoyed me a little bit because it was stressful, like I was like, oh yeah, the gameplay itself is compelling, but if I would have known how short it was, I would have just played it all the way through because I feel like that's the best way to experience it because
Definitely.
again, it's only 2.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But right, like you're talking about, the game itself does a really good job of juxtaposing what is going on in the current, which is right in the middle of the story where um, fits perfectly with how they sliced that,
Mm-hmm.
basically edited that from the first game. But whenever Joel is wounded and she has to find him help, Left Behind is where you are finding the medical supplies, and each kind of key moment you're going through the mall cues a flashback of you and your friend Riley.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever basically it ends with the whole thing of her, she was going to go with the Fireflies and basically saying, hey, I have feelings for you, do you want me to stay or not? And that's
Yeah.
the story overall it ends up telling. But you're right about it being slow. It is one of those that if I didn't know beforehand that this was touted as a great LGBTQ representation in a game, I probably wouldn't have guessed that that would have been romantic towards the end.
Right.
Just because right off the bat, it's not something I would have thought about. But they're very, very slow with friends. And what was really cool about it, and I feel like more than the original Last of Us, was the interactivity of the world.
Yeah.
Like especially in the mall with the flashbacks. I mean, I spent a good, felt like 15 minutes in that one section with the masks, just because it kept giving me different pop-ups. I'm like,
Ooh, I want to do this
am I
one.
doing the same stuff like all over
How
again?
long
So
did you spend on the pun book?
at least like 5 minutes.
I spent so long with it that it prompted like, okay, that's enough for now. Like they ran out of lines to say because I just did all of them. Me being a
Oh man.
dad, I just like, yes.
But another thing that was really cool about that too is they were able to play with the gameplay really creatively. From little moments like that where it's walking simulator esque, to
Right.
other times where you're having the water gun battle in the middle of like a Macy's.
Yeah.
It is. It's kind of one of those, I'm sitting through the entire experience going, man, Neil Druckmann, like
Yeah.
he quite literally gave us a playable movie. And let me get your opinion on this. Do you feel like this is better played having played Last of Us for the first time? Or do you think it's something that you could recommend to someone who's on the fence of The Last of Us and then have them go into it?
No, I mean, is it good standalone? Yeah, I do feel like there's enough information, but also it does kind of literally start in the middle of, well, even like the whole Joel thing is pretty much the beginning of Act 3, really, of the game,
Yeah.
if you think about it. So it's like you're already like 2/3 of the way into the game before this happens. So it's like you're hanging out with your BFF slash GF by the end, or back to some random dude if you haven't played the game. So it's like it's very,
Yeah.
yeah. I feel like it's the perfect companion piece. So much so that when I do my playthroughs now, because I do a replay of this game at least once every other year, once every year and a half or something. I do a replay of it. My replays are going to start getting longer now because of part 2, but still, But I go through it chronologically. So basically, when the cutscene after the cutscene of him getting fucking impaled, as soon as
Yeah.
it cuts and then it's the with the bunny or whatever, I stop it, I go to the main menu, and I start up Left Behind. Like I do it
Yeah.
chronologically, basically. So, what the fuck was the question? No, it's
Oh,
not
if
good as a
okay.
standalone. I think is what you were getting at, right?
Yeah, because for me, I feel like playing it standalone, like yeah, it might leave you with some question, but it's also 2.5 hours. In The Last of Us, it's a 6 to 7, 8 hour game, and while I it's one of those that I feel like that and like Marvel Spider Man are quintessential games that everyone needs to play. Anyone who's not a big gamer at all, like you try to tell them, hey, you should play this. It's really phenomenal. It's 8 hours. They're like, so, with this, I could kind of feel like you could make a case for
Yeah,
it. But going into kind of switching for me into the medium side of kind of what it did, I don't know if it's just like a recent thing or what, but this whole like minimalistic storytelling is becoming my new favorite type of film and type of like storytelling overall.
yeah.
Because we just watched Arrival the other night, and that was the first time I've ever watched Arrival. And
Remind me, that's Hawkeye
Amy
and
Adams,
somebody. Yeah, okay.
yes,
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
yeah,
Really good, really good.
and yes, it is. One of the things that it has in common is it gives you all the ingredients, doesn't give you explicit instructions, and kind of was like, okay, because I
Yeah.
was thinking about it for a while, and obviously, quick spoilers for Arrival. I was thinking back after finishing it, I was like, oh, that's crazy because they totally told us in the beginning that that was, a prelude to what happens before they come to meet her. And then I thought about it, and I was like, no, they didn't explicitly say anything. They just led you to believe that.
Yep.
And so, if you had played Last of Us, which most people who play Left Behind played Last of Us
Right.
first, when Left Behind ended, I was a little kind of at first, but then I thought about it more, and I'm like, oh yeah, they didn't have to show that happening. They just like the information, that Ellie is immune and she's going to survive, and
Mm-hmm.
they leave that to your imagination. And they pretty much do throughout the entire thing as well. I mean, if you understand and like pay attention to how like game development is, and you played games for years like we have, you can
Mm-hmm.
start to see stuff. You can kind of see where there's certain things that are leading you to it, but they don't tell you. Like, it's just giving you a scene and letting you experience it how you want to
Yeah.
is something that is cool that you can do even in a video game where your whole goal is to guide that character and progress through the story.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this does a great job. Like, I think why I would say that it couldn't be a standalone is that impending doom that you feel throughout this,
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
we know from the end of The Last of Us, we know that she doesn't survive. We know that they both got bit, and they've decided to just wait it out. And so the way it does end is pretty much like, oh fuck, she had to kill her.
Yeah.
Fuck. But I do like that kind of impending doom, and it's like it's very palpable, and it's like every time you go back to the flashback, you get just these gut wrenchingly heartwarming scenes with like your best friend ever, and
Yeah.
it progresses so naturally into, yeah, I kind of like you, like give me a reason to stay, like
Yeah.
almost like maybe there's a little bit of fear, like maybe she doesn't want to join the firefight, she's looking for an excuse to stay, and she's looking to Ellie and be like, it's almost like one of those, like, I didn't know what I had until I'm gonna lose it, and so she didn't want to lose it, and like that, the way it progresses, she doesn't just be like, yeah, so I want you, babe. No, it's like it happens throughout this entire experience that you have with her or whatever, and then it ends so tragically. But then, like I said, the thematic link between the two is, to a certain extent, I feel like up until this point, you and Joel both were just very
Mhm.
much at each other's rope. You do get to the campus, and you do feel like there's this change happening, but it's still like, I don't know. And so this was like the pushing over the edge moment where it's like her having to take care of Joel really just solidified how she actually felt about Joel. You know, because I mean, I think even the scene where she rides off to her by herself happens before, you know, he gets impaled, obviously, because that's how they get the horse. But still, even that happens, and they have kind of a heart to heart there, but it's still not quite there. You know, they're still both of them like, you
Yeah.
can see the breadcrumbs, but it really is that moment where she has to take care of him. And so seeing basically two types of love, you know, a
Mhm.
very platonic father daughter type of love, and a very romantic love, and seeing the difference between them, but also the similarities, is probably one reason that it is a really good choice for love. You know, even though this is a very tragic story, it is also a story about love.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's the love that makes you hurt.
Yeah.
But it's one that it still is really important, and goes to show, just as DLC, how it can totally change your experience of a game. Because if you think about, like a good example with The Last of Us, like with Henry and Sam, playing through that the first time, the brothers, when you come across the two
Mm-hmm.
brothers, yeah, you don't expect that. You don't
Ugh.
expect that. And then I remember going on my second playthrough, dreading that part, and
Oh
just
God, yeah.
like just feeling that like impending doom, like you were talking about. So it's with this, it gives you Ellie in a different context, especially when her and Joel meet for the first time.
Yeah.
And like you have because I don't know about you, but whenever I played it for the first time, I was, I think like everyone else was like, oh, why should I care about this girl? In at the very, very beginning, because
Yeah, definitely.
um, but it goes to show another thing for Sony too, like they really know what they're doing when it comes to these kind of DLC projects. I mean, you've
Mm-hmm.
got Thief's no, that's Uncharted 4, Lost Legacy,
Yep. Yep.
and you've got like Miles Morales and things like that. But
Oh yeah.
just a must play, an
Yeah.
absolute must play, and I am definitely ashamed that it took me this long to play it.
Yeah.
It's my going on my wall of shame.
Shame.
Ring, ring.
No, great choice by you. Absolutely. I mean, to a normal person, yeah, clicking on this video, they might not. How the heck is left? I mean, yeah, I guess, but no, it very good choice as far as, I mean, Last of Us in general is kind of about love in a very,
Yeah,
you know, obscure kind of way, and so this is overtly just love. It's two different
yeah,
loves, and how they portray it is just masterful. As far as like, this is why Naughty Dog gets shit right, is the fact that they can do as much development in a 2.5 hour span that they can in an 8 hour span, really just tells you how talented the people at Naughty Dog are.
absolutely.
So what do you guys think about Left Behind? Have you played it? Have you not played it? If you've played Last of Us and Last of Us Part 2, but for some reason you haven't played Left Behind, obviously we sort of spoiled it, but not really. But anyways, what's wrong with you? Anyways, I was Nick,
And I was Nate.
even though I don't think we did that in the intro, but
I
hey!
wasn't sure either.
One last thing before we leave you here. We are currently at 561 at the time of this recording. We could be more at this point. And I just want to take this time to say thank you. Thank you so freaking much. We spent literally the pandemic under 500 people, well under 500 people. And recently we've been shooting up. Like, we haven't, the peak isn't like straight up, but we've been shooting up lately, and it definitely is extremely humbling and validating to what we're doing here, and it makes me feel so great. So thank you guys so much for subscribing to us, for keeping watching and everything. It really makes a huge difference to just the overall team morale. Good?
Yes, everything he said.
Indeed. So thank you guys so much, and you guys have a good one.